Testing, testing, testing. Test, 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 testing, testing. Everyone, to episode 761 of the Daily Mother Swole. Most muscular Swolecast, Beardcast, Broadcast, Gaincast, Mancast, Pimpcast, and Sleazecast in the realm, because when I flex, you flex. We all flex our biceps. And this is episode 761. So if we have any Juans in the house, what up, Juan? You're my number Juan. And we'll talk about I have a good joke. I'm not even going to say it, but we are going to talk about arms and some missing pieces that you might have in your arm training and your arm workouts and so forth. And some big things coming up. I know I've been saying it. I've been saying big things coming up, but it's true because they're coming and they're still coming, and more and more and more and more and more. I'm going to be hammering you with awesome information in the next week or so. Some new updates, and those of you that are in Swolenormous X, you'll hear about it a little bit earlier than everybody else. But you'll know what's going on. Some new programs dropping and some new shit going down in the Swolenormous Heezy. So I'm excited about that. I'm working hard on that. And of course, I'm working hard on my beard. I'm growing it regularly every damn day with the beard tip. What's going on, David, Michael, and YouTube sleeping so far? So when you come on into the live cast on YouTube, make sure you say, what up? The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. The bacon is sizzling. Isn't that the truth? Now, I might eventually have that role being able to play. I might be doing like a multi-stream on Facebook and YouTube, so I can play that intro. And I might up my game like that. I might, it'll be nice when someone someday has like the switchboard and I can just sit down and I can go live and someone else is running all the behind the scenes. That'd be nice. That'd be nice. That'd be nice. I'd get some better sound. I would get some better, because like right now, when I'm all up in like the computer, I get a lot of fan noise. There's just so much stuff going on. It's hot as fuck in here. It's hot. It's hot. Holy summer. Holy fucking summer. It's what, June? I mean, it's big time summer, June 6th. And I'm telling you, in Florida, the summer is here and the balls are sweaty. The balls are sweaty. We're talking like that saggy sack skin just sticks to your leg. Like, I'll tell you what, like King of the Hill. Oh, I'll tell you what, my skins are stuck to the side of my leg. It sounds like more like Bill Clinton. Same thing. King of the Hill, Bill Clinton, same thing. 93 here. Today today was low 90s. And it's just humid. It's just humid. If you're in the West, you get that dry heat, which is sometimes better than the humidity is fucking wet. It doesn't have to be that hot temperature wise for the humidity to crush you. But let's jump into today's episode. So everyone's coming in. Everyone's kind of on that evening commute or finishing up their day. If you're West Coast, if you're international, you're doing, I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're sleeping, but you'll catch this tomorrow. And we're going to talk some arm beef, some arm steak. We're going to talk for men and women. And if you've listened to my podcast or listened to previous episodes, I've done, lift heavy ladies. I've had those episodes in the past where I rant and I yell at women to stop being, I guess, for lack of a better word, puss snatches and going light if you want to lose weight, right? If you want to build shape and you want to have, a muscular or like a shapely butt and you want to have shapely arms, you got to lift weights. You got to lift weights and you have to lift heavy. You have to lift like a bodybuilder, like a dude will. A guy that wants to get ripped, a girl has to go the same way. And if a girl and I'm not talking every female wants to get ripped, because I think more guys in general want to be harder and more ripped in that sense than women do. Women want to have tone and all those words, and they look slender and have shape and have cuts, a nice little cut around the deltoid. Women have to work just as hard as guys do to get those results, because women, it's natural for more body fat to have more body fat on your body. So you got to lift hard. You got to lift hard. You got to lift heavy, and you got to train like a beast. So men, women, you got to lift weights. And we're going to get into some of the strategies to think about when you're doing your arm training. Mickey Hollister, 107 San Antonio. You know what that means? That means move. San Antonio. Ooh. What is it? I didn't realize it got that. I mean, I guess I did know it got hot in Texas, but shit, I know it's that hot there already. Brutal. 103. Is everyone here that's saying it's 103? Are you all in Texas? I'd love to listen, Papa Swole, but I have to make some deadlift gains. So do it, man. You don't need my permission to make sick fucking gains. You don't need you don't need Papa Swole to say so. Although you do have my permission, by the way. Finally caught a live one. Fucking A, Trev. Texas. Everyone here is in Texas. Military stuck. Oh. Ooh. Serving the country. Respect. Thank you. Okay, so let's go into some of the nips and tits. Let's do nips first, and then we'll get into some of the tits, and then we'll get into some of the grundle taint stuff when it comes to arms. So this episode, arms like steaks. Steaks. Everyone's like, fucking yeah, steaks. Everyone in Texas is like, yep, woohoo, steaks. I know steaks. Lower South Texas. Shit. Mm. Ah, drinking the aguacito. Agua. ¿Quieres agua, papacito? Sí, Papa Swolito. All right, let's see where we want to start here. 100 Austin, Texas. A lot of people. Yeah, we got a big Texas crew. Well, it's like what 4? So you're Central Time, so you got about almost 5 o'clock. All right, so yeah, it's a little bit light on the live cast today. I understand it's almost 6 o'clock on a Wednesday. We got people commuting, so hopefully you're going to catch the podcast later. Those of you that aren't able to make it live. So let's get into it. First off, the first point I want to talk about, I kind of mentioned already, is going heavy. Is going heavy enough to stimulate fiber growth? And men and women, you're no different from one another. And you have to be hitting these muscle building repetitions. And what is a muscle building repetition? Well, it's a physiological adaptation. And if you are doing a set, the amount of repetitions you're doing is going to be, if you do, let's say, as many as you can to failure, let's say you can't do another rep, that is going to be your repetition range. So if you do 10 reps and you're choosing a weight, I'm not getting specific with the exercises yet. I'm not going to get super granular. We're not going to do a whole program right now, but just these concepts that are going to help you with whatever you're currently doing. If you're doing 8 reps and you can't do a single one more, or if you're doing 15 reps and you can't do a single one more, what the body is going to adapt to will be different. Your body over the long term. And I want to make that point clear first. It's over the long term. When you build muscle, it's a chronic adaptation. You don't have acute adaptations for muscle building. So anything you're doing in the moment in the gym, you're breaking down the tissue, right? You're flushing blood to the muscles. You're getting that transient hypertrophy is what it's called. You're getting that temporary pump, right? So when I lift and I work out, I look in the mirror and I look like a fucking cartoon character sometimes, like just a huge ripped, pumped veins. Now, all right, I mean, I still have muscle and definition and some, but not the same. Not the same as when you're lifting, obviously, because when you're lifting, your sympathetic nervous system is jacked up. You're sending the majority of your blood in your body to the muscle tissue so your body can clear out the garbage and bring nutrients and oxygen and all those things. So in order to maximize muscle growth, and when I say maximize muscle growth, this applies to you ladies too. If you want to have nice and defined arms, you have to build muscle. What do you think goes on? It's developing and cultivating muscle mass. You're not going to get as big as a dude because you're not producing testosterone like a guy. And that's why when you see women like in these bodybuilding competitions that take exogenous hormones, like taking testosterone, they have manly features because that's the male sex hormone. So when it comes to your training, your repetition ranges, women, you need to focus on building muscle, and guys need to focus on building muscle. And those proper rep ranges can vary, but generally between 8 to 15 is when you are optimally stimulating and overloading the muscle fibers to lead lead in the future, to lead towards the chronic adaptation of muscle growth. And what muscle growth is actually the cross-sectional area, the cross-sectional diameter, that whole, just the tube, right? Think of every muscle fiber as a straw. The straw gets thicker. So you're not actually creating more muscle fibers. You're just making the ones you have naturally bigger, larger, right? Or stronger, and everything that goes along with building muscle and strength. So that being said, you need to be lifting enough weight that's going to cause you trauma, micro trauma, not macro trauma. We're not trying to pull muscles and injure yourselves. Micro trauma within that 8 to 15 rep window. Now, of course, when I do arms, sometimes I'll do 6 reps or 4 reps, or I'll do higher reps to burnout. I'm not talking about those little subcategories of flushing the muscles full of blood, of burning out, of doing drop sets. Remember, fam, we're talking about chronic adaptations. So, what often gets confused with any kind of training, not just arm training, you get, oh, are drop sets good, or are supersets good, or are circuits good? There's really no necessarily good or bad. It's about what you're exposing your body to, how long you're exposing your body to that stress, and getting the proper nutrition, recovery, doing the right form in order for your body to adapt to that stress in the way that we know from science and from experience works for building muscle. And some people love to do higher reps more. Some people like heavier weight and lower reps, maybe on the lower end of that range. Maybe some people are going to swear by 6 reps. Some people are going to swear by 15 to 20. Everyone works a little bit differently, but you're going to find that out in your journey. You're going to find that out in your process. But for example, where people get hung up is like a drop set at the end of a set. Doing a drop set at the end of a set is not going to make or break whether you got huge or not. It's going to be, what are you doing in the majority of your sets? What are you doing? What are you exposing your body to regularly, over and over again, week after week, month after month, and essentially year after year, depending on your program cycles? What are you exposing your body to? What are you giving your body the opportunity to adapt to? Are you just doing random shit and you're doing high reps and then low reps and then mono reps and then high reps and then you're skipping it and you're doing this and you're doing that? If you're changing shit up too much, remember we talked about how your body is going to adapt to a point and then you're going to hit that fucking plateau. Another reason why people stop seeing results or get hurt when they're doing CrossFit or group exercise classes or general routines that don't have these constant progressions or deloading, loading, all those different variations and different subtleties with a program design. That's the difference between exercising or working out and training. If you're getting technical, training has that periodization. Training has that stacked approach. Training has that progression in which you build and build and build and build, right? And you deload and you take time off or you recover so you don't overtrain and stay healthy. Like you have these periods of different shifts and different cycles essentially in order to keep you growing as optimally as possible and keeping you healthy. Bobby Hooker, where's your American flag etiquette? What are you talking about? No. What is it? The union should be the uppermost into the flag's own. No, it's hung correctly. Because I know on YouTube it reverses for some reason. It's like a rear facing. So no, the flag is hung correctly. So let's go on with the show. So where was I? Okay, so your rep ranges, right? Your rep ranges. Thank you, Mike. Your rep ranges are going to be in that realm, and this is from studies, right? So I can speak from personal experience, and this is also what you'll find in science books, exercise physiology, personal training manuals. You'll see these like, hypertrophy, building muscle. Hypertrophy means muscle building. When you are staying within that 8 to 12 range, that 8 to 12 range, 8 to 12 is or has been shown by study after study to be a very good range for optimally building muscle. That varies. There are subtle changes and acute changes you can do workout to workout or within a set or within a series of exercise that can stimulate and shock and further break down and traumatize the muscle tissue. So, that being said, let's go on to the next point. Compound movements and multi joint with the shoulder and the elbow. Wow. If you hear some like rattling, It was sunny and hot, and all of a sudden, there's like a torrential downpour outside. So if you're hearing some of that on the audio, holy crap, I didn't even realize it was pouring. I heard it in my headphones. Wow. Florida always impresses me. It's like perfectly sunny and hot. I was just outside with my shirt off walking the dog, and it was hot. I'm like, "Oh my god, it's hot as hell." I didn't see any dark flags. I mean, dark flags. We're talking about the flag, dark clouds. Shit, just like it's like white out, just rain, sun showers. It's raining gains. It's raining gains, making sicko fucking gains. All right. Donnie Carr, why would someone come here and call out the placement of a flag? I don't know. I understand if it was hung incorrectly, but it is hung correctly. Gold troll elsewhere. Zach, what's going on? Derek Peterson. American flag being displayed with the stars facing to the left is fine as long as no other flags are flown above it. Why the fuck would you fly another flag above the American flag? That's just foolish. It's bipolar weather. It's ridiculous right now. Anyway, so let's go on with the show. If you want to continue, I mean, there's a flag conversation going on Facebook, so you can do that as if that's the most important thing going on right now in this world is how a flag is flown. I get it. I respect this country. That's why I have two. I have one there and I have one on the other side. So represent. Let's see. Okay. So another another little bit of juice to squeeze out of this bicep lemon, arm lemon, I should say, are the compound and multi-joint movements. When I say compound, or you say multi, let's just talk about multi-joint. Usually we think of like a bench press, right? Where you're working the shoulder and the elbow, a squat, you got the hips, the knees, ankle, you have multiple joints working together. Most of what people do in terms of arm training is single joint in the sense of doing a curl, biceps, you're doing elbow flexion, triceps, elbow extension. But triceps and biceps have different actions around the shoulder. The biceps crosses the shoulder joint, and the long head of the triceps crosses the shoulder joint. So the shoulder angle during the exercise is very important to fully maximize your arm gain. So if you're just standing there doing a curl or standing there doing a push down with a cable for triceps, you are missing a massive portion of your arm development. And I'm very big on shape. I'm very big on sculpting. And I'm just like, amateur, amateur bodybuilder. And of course, I mean, if I think bodybuilding is the best approach for weight training because when you're bodybuilding, you're obsessed with balance in the body, with keeping proportions. And keeping proportions usually will lead to keeping strength relative around the joint, which leads to better alignment, which leads to better posture, which leads to less risk of injury and so forth. So, with bodybuilding in combination with yoga and mobility, I think is a perfect marriage. Okay. Now, when it comes to your shoulder position, for example, you might have something like an incline curl where you're leaning back slightly on a bench. I just posted that exercise tutorial on the incline dumbbell curl in Swolenormous X. So those of you that are Swolenormous X members, you have that new instructional video that I posted the other day. And that, what it does is your arms, your shoulder joint, your humerus starts in more extension at the beginning of the movement. So the muscles are longer than normal. Like you're not standing up straight, you're leaning back slightly. Your arms or your bicep muscles are starting from a longer position initially. So there's a different length tension relationship at the beginning of the movement. So you're mixing it up. So it's going to traumatize the muscle a little bit differently. You're not going to be able to lift as heavy. You're going to create a little bit different shape. There's going to be a different final contraction point. There's going to be a different initial contraction point. And throughout the entire arc of the movement, you're going to have different tension throughout the different areas of the curl. So it stimulates the muscles differently. This is very important also for the triceps. The long head of the triceps is the only part of the triceps that crosses the shoulder joint. So when you're doing triceps and you're leaning forward during push downs, or you're doing skull crushers or something overhead, and you're kind of keeping your arms more in a flexed position relative to your shoulder, you're not at 90 degrees, maybe you're a little bit beyond, and you're changing the tension where there's tension on the long head of the triceps. For example, like the Papa Swole press, the body weight triceps extension that I do, and when I do when I do cables, triceps extensions, I lean forward. I get a lot of great stretch almost like a pullover with the triceps because you get that long head and you get that real development under the posterior deltoid. And then when you combine that with the posterior deltoid, you get great shape and separation, which gives you some true size and 3D appeal for the arms. And I have well-developed arms because of my attention and my obsession with detail, my obsession with weaker muscle groups, my obsession with the smaller ones, my obsession with the ones that are commonly neglected. And I hit those harder. I hit those as a priority every time. And I've been hitting my posterior deltoid and the muscles that are commonly underactive in my body and in most people's body, but I've been hitting those underactive muscles since I started training. So about 16 years, 17 years, I've been prioritizing posterior deltoid work. For about 17 years, I've been doing my posterior deltoid first in my workouts or prioritizing it, even if it's not always first, but it's like number one. I'm always, if it's shoulder day, I crush it. Usually on back day too, I'll crush it. I'll isolate it and pump it again. And that's given me some amazing development. When I get a pump, it looks like almost like a sharp, you know, point on the back of my arm. And, yeah, and it's just a great development, but you get that long head of the triceps, you get that full canoe-like triceps development, and you get that insertion and that cut in the back of the arm, and then it really looks like your arm is twice as big as it is. I mean, it's just definition. And that's why when we look at someone that's very lean, we say, "Man, that guy's jacked." A lot of these guys you see on Instagram that are like shredded, ripped, I'm not talking about the pro bodybuilders, but these, amateur people, they're like 160 pounds. They're small people. They're small dudes, right? You could be natural and they're shredded. And it's much easier to get shredded when you're less weight. It's hard to be like 250 muscular and just shredded. That's a lot to carry around. It's a lot for the body, depending on your height and stuff like that. So a lot of people that have these physiques online, they could be shorter in many cases because you can't see their height, for example, like, on videos or in a picture, like who cares how tall someone is? You can't really tell. And then you'll see their physique and they look bigger because of maybe editing, maybe their filter, but also because of the fact that they're so defined. So when you're very lean, you look more muscular. You know why? Because relative to your body mass, you have less fat relative to your muscles. So you can see the muscles more. So you look more muscular. Makes sense. More of what you see is muscle tissue rather than the fat on top of it covering it. So you look less round and soft. You look more hard and lean. And then psychologically, you look bigger when that's not always the case. So the joint position at the shoulder is very important. So if you're limiting your arm training to just like stuff what you're doing when you're standing up and you're leaning forward, you're not leaning forward at all. You're not doing stuff overhead. You're not extending the shoulder or, flexing the shoulder joint, bringing the arm to the front more. You're not, starting with the biceps more stretched or more shortened at the beginning. You're not changing your shoulder angle during your training and you're not prioritizing your posterior deltoid. You are going to miss out on massive, massive gains. That comes down to the shape. That brings us to the shape of the muscles, right? The shape of the triceps, the shape. Now, there's different muscles. You have two parts of the biceps, you have three parts of the triceps. Different muscles are in different places. You need variety. Now, I said I already talked about going basic and going heavy and changing different angles. So you want consistency. You want that weight and that overload to be consistent. You want to be pounding the muscles regularly with heavy weight and that moderate rep range in order to stimulate the most muscle growth. You also need to take into account your genetics and what your genetic predisposition is. And that's going to have a lot to do with, where those muscles insert, right? The musculotendinous junction and where, how short the belly of the muscle is. Some people have very short muscle belly. Some people have very long, full muscle bellies. Obviously, full muscle bellies is usually more desirable and everyone's trying to build the lower part of their arms if they have shorter biceps, but everyone's different. You can't always change that. You can't always change that. You might be screwed with your genetics and you have to do the best you can. You can't necessarily change the shape of your muscle just because you train them a certain way. Like you have genetics, the way the muscles look and how much tendon you have and how full the muscle belly is. So some other strategies, like I talked about drop sets, supersets. These are things that are great for saving time. These are things that are great for fatiguing the muscle and getting deeper into those muscle fibers, great for flushing the muscles full of blood, and also great for support around the joint when you're overloading a single joint exercise. And most of these exercises are single joint. Even when you're, changing the stress around the shoulder joint, let's say you're changing the angle or you're getting the shoulder a little bit involved with your biceps and triceps training. If you're doing arms all in one day, like yesterday or 2 days ago, I did arms, I did shoulders, bis and tris. When you're doing those little supersets, let's say bicep, tricep, and then bicep, tricep with minimal rest. Let's say do biceps, triceps, rest, and then biceps, triceps, rest. You are creating a lot of equal pressure around the joint. You're creating a lot of tension and pressure for like the flexion, elbow flexion, and working the biceps. And then you're also creating like a little elbow sandwich and you're creating tension on the other side of the joint. So I like supersets because it's very balancing. I like creating, I guess, pressure, tension, internal tension around both sides of a joint. It's, in my opinion, it's healthier and safer. I honestly don't know if that's exactly true, like if it's safer, if you can really test that. But I really do feel that if you're any kind of balance is good. And when you're creating a lot of stress, if you're just going to the gym and just doing biceps day and just curling, 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 you're creating a lot of tension and you're creating a lot of damage. And then when you come, let's say the next day or 2 days later to just do triceps, first off, you're already those are already small muscle groups. So you're kind of overloading. You're doing a lot of volume on just one of those areas. You don't need a biceps day. You're coming in, and if you come in for triceps, let's say 2 days later, and your biceps are wrecked, and your tendons and your insertions, right? Your biceps insertions are just sore, and then you're crushing triceps. You have tissue that's already repairing and damaged and stressed and like tight, and then you're crushing and lengthening it by hammering triceps. Like I feel like doing it at the same moment and creating that balanced tension is better afterwards. Ooh, I got a good question on Twitch. Hey, can you give me advice about the song to my first wedding dance? Ooh, I would say anything with Lil Jon. Yeah, yeah. I think that's the best way to go. Anything with Lil Jon. What about a song that's just like him just going, yeah, yeah, over and over again? Just the intro over and over again. There you go. There you go. You got it. Congratulations. That's going to be a viral video. Just Lil Jon saying yeah on repeat. Last but not least, and I've been mentioning it throughout this episode, is don't forget the shoulders. So oftentimes when we talk about arms, we separate the biceps and triceps from the shoulders. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's good. Really. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's great to do bis and tris by themselves. Most people could do arms and treat shoulders and arms kind of all in one day, especially if you're creating balance. And what a lot of people lose is the balance in the shoulder. You get too much anterior deltoid development. You're not doing, you know, you're not doing the middle deltoid. You're not activating that properly because you have compensations, right? You have upper body issues, postural issues. So every time you do a side raise, you're externally rotating, you're getting too much anterior deltoid, you're just jacking up certain muscles, blah, blah, blah. You need to create that balance. So you need to crush the posterior deltoid. You need to make sure your middle and lower traps are activating. And the posterior deltoid and the posterior rotator cuff is going to create such amazing support for your shoulder. You're going to reduce your injury risk, you're going to increase your mobility, and you're going to increase the definition and the shape of your upper arm. If you want your arms to not just, if you don't care, it's, oh, I'm trying to get stronger arms. Okay. If you want to look better, let's just say it how it is. Most of you just want to look, you want to have arms that look better. You don't care if they can lift 1,000 versus 500 pounds. You want them to look like they can. So if you want to look better and you want your arms to look better, then you got to work on the muscles that are going to help your posture. Most people, men and women, it's the least attractive thing in the world to see from a dude standpoint, from my standpoint, to see a woman with like rounded shoulders. It makes your tits look shitty. It makes your body look shitty. It makes you slouchy. Your ass disappears. It's just horrible. You look defeated. It looks miserable. I hate seeing young girls with the rounded shoulders. It looks absolutely disgusting. It's a disgusting look. It's horrific. There's no if I mean, from guys too, it looks I mean, it looks shitty on people. I'm just talking about from a sexual standpoint because 'cause I'm a dude and I like the ladies, but posture is very important. And your whole body and physique, and we'll talk more about posture, but how you hold yourself, how you carry yourself, that kind of balance and postural balance will relate to your physique because posture relates to the muscles that are activating to keep you with proper posture, which will give you, if you train them properly, will give you better shape and you'll look better. You'll have better, more aesthetics. You will look better. You will have a better figure. So, ladies, guys, whatever you want to call it, aesthetics, you want to call it physique, you want to call it figure, you'll look better if you're working your muscles evenly. And most people do not know how to activate those muscles on the back of their shoulder, and it's extremely important. Zach on Facebook. So, would you say if you have a muscle group that's stronger than another, for instance, the pecs are stronger than the posterior delts? Well, they're always stronger. Can that affect posture and pain? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Most times when people feel really tight in their shoulder blades, right? You feel really tight between your shoulder blades. It's usually because those muscles are pulled so far apart. They're so pulled apart because you have so much protraction and so much internal rotation in the upper body that that tension, that neural tension feels like tightness, but you're neurally tight. You're neurally tight. Neurally meaning neuron, nervous system. You're neurally tight, not physically tight. And usually what needs to happen there is posterior rotator cuff, posterior deltoid activation, rhomboid, middle lower trap activation to help relieve tension on those muscles that are getting pulled apart and increasing mobility in the upper arm. It's normal to have this kind of imbalance. It's terrible. It's normal, it's common. It's not normal, it's common because we're sitting at computers and cars and slouching all the time. So we're very sedentary people and we're very hunched over. Our society is revolves around poor posture. Not to mention when you have a gut, extra body fat, it hangs on the front of your body so that your body pushes forward, your stomach hangs forward. So then your upper body rounds to balance and then your head juts forward. So you start jacking up the muscles in the back of your neck, your levator scapula, splenius capitis, all these muscles in the fucking back area. It doesn't matter what they're called. You get rounding in the upper back. You have that fucking like kyphosis look. You look like Quasimodo, and you have pressure all up the body from the back to the shoulders, the neck, the head, migraines, and all sorts of problems. Not to mention, it looks like shit. How can you hit the rear delts? By doing rear delts. You can do them with dumbbells, you can hit them with cables, you can do rear delt cables. I've posted many pictures and stuff. I have videos on my Instagram. You're watching on Instagram. I have videos in my feed about doing posterior deltoid with the cables. There's several ways to do it. There's many ways to do it with with dumbbells. You could do floor cobras to activate. Floor cobras are great for all of these. The prone press is great for all these. Those of you that are members of my Swolenormous X platform, these exercises are woven into most of the all the training. The prone press and the cobras are fucking amazing for activating these. How often do we need shoulder workouts in a week? Maybe once or twice. You can definitely pair up your shoulder with arm day and also with like back day, for example. Like when you train back, you can do throw some shoulder, some rear deltoid in at the end, or activate your back and do some rear deltoid before. That's a great way to warm up for your back training. Do some like, really light activation for your posterior deltoid before you do your rows and your heavier sets. And then you can do side raises and some more rear deltoid when you do your arm training. There's many different ways to that's program design that gets like details, but there's some great strategies on how you can pair it up with other body parts. Joining late, so how do we work the back muscles? What? You're missing. I don't know what you're late. You got to rewatch the podcast. We're not talking about the back. Strengthen core, strengthen the back. What are we what's going on Facebook? What are help me with weight loss? All right, we're getting random questions. You guys need to give a little more coherent sentences. I don't know what anyone I'm just getting words like exercise, weight loss. What about it? Help me out here, fam. All I see is text, and if I can't read it, I cannot answer it. I'll take a couple more questions. How can you train shoulders and arms twice a week when they all get indirect training. What do you mean, how can you? Shoulders, I didn't say you train arms and shoulders twice a week. 2 times per week, I didn't say full volume isolated workouts. And I said that about shoulders, I didn't say that about arms. Everything gets indirect training. When you're curling, what do you think is stabilizing your shoulders, your chest, and your lats? Like, you're always working everything. When you do legs, your back is working, your chest is still involved. When you're holding the bar, your chest is still attached to your humerus. Like, every muscle is always working, by the way. When you're doing legs, every muscle, whenever you're doing any kind of exercise, every muscle's fucking working. Like, just because you're doing legs doesn't mean your chest isn't attached to your arms. Like, everything's stabilizing evenly. And if your chest is tight, it's going to affect your rotation, which is going to affect your posture, which is going to affect your squat. Like, everything's connected. Everything gets indirect training. But I'll tell you what, if you only do chest and back and you don't do any isolated work for arms, you ain't going to get very big arms. You're not going to be happy with the results. And you can cite me whatever strong man, oh, this guy only does big movements and has arms. Yeah, these guys are juicing out of their mind and they're fucking doing all sorts of lifts too. So you can't really point to one person and say, well, this person, you don't know what they do. People that do CrossFit, that compete in these things, they do tons of isolation. They do tons of stuff that you don't see on their Instagram, right? A lot of people do their training in private and they don't really publicize their stuff as much. You think they do, but just because you're watching a vlog of someone's day doesn't mean they're showing you all 24 hours. You're seeing like, a few minutes of when they're filming, maybe an hour of filming throughout the day that's edited to make it look entertaining and stuff like that with some voiceover stuff. I mean, you know, you don't see everything that everyone does. So that's why when I see things like people like, showing all these like cheat meal pictures and some of these guys online that are just fucking ripped and obviously either juicing or not cheating as often as they'll claim, you'll see them posting pictures of like fucking pizza and garbage all the time. You're not eating that, you idiot, all the time. Give me the fucking break. Give me a break. Or you just took a picture with it and walked away. You can fool the math. You can't fool people that have been in the industry. You cannot fool people that are fucking in it, that know what it takes. Like, you can't fool me on that shit. So that was a little bit of a rant, but it's true. It's true. And that's why a lot of people that are that are what I will associate with as professionals, get frustrated when they see that kind of shit because it's just smoke and mirrors and everyone believes it. Everyone, yeah, needles in the ass. It's true. And most people believe it because people want to believe it, right? You want to believe that it's possible to do that. Who wouldn't? Oh, I can eat garbage all the time and get ripped. Oh yeah. There's a fucking ad on Instagram from some jabroni ex-football player who actually doesn't look that good. And he's like eating pizza. He's like, "You want to learn how to get lean? I used to think I had to eat all this stuff and now I'm eating pizza. Learn how to eat faster when you're on the road." Shut the fuck up, you asshole. I forgot his name. Someone sent me the ad or I saw it and I might have taken a screenshot, but I gotta do a roast on him. It was just the most stupid, despicable ad. It's amazing what people are doing to try to get some fucking money. These are all people that are gonna be gone in the wind in like 6 months. Just fucking scam artists. Michael Coates, I feel after main body part splits, they are pre-fatigued or you don't have the energy to focus. I don't do anything. If I do 2 body parts in a day, I usually superset them. I don't like doing one and then doing another. I feel like that's also a fundamental issue with most people is if you're stopping one body part to then work the other, let's say you did back and now you can go do some biceps. If you're stopping to go do biceps, you didn't finish back or you didn't focus on your back enough. And when you have something that's going to come up after, let's say you're going to do biceps after back, you're essentially stopping back so you can, like, you're ending it. You're ending it so you can get your biceps training in. It's like, well, that means you're not focusing as much on your back workout. Go to the gym, then do back only or something, and then come back another day and do other body parts. Or as I've been enjoying again lately, and I usually go through different periods where I love chest and back supersets. I love doing chest and back. I'll go to the gym and lately I've been doing a 3-day split where I'll do chest and back and then I'll do legs and I'll do arms. And I love it. And one of the reasons why I'm personally doing that lately, and that's going to be one of the programs that I'm releasing in the near future. is because I have limited time to get to the gym. I get distracted, I have a lot of things going on, so I wanna make sure I get everything done every week, right? I wanna make sure I get all my workouts in every week, and if I'm going and I'm doing, let's say, a 6-day split where I'm spreading it all out and I'm doing, like, say, Monday chest, and I do a classic, like, really, like, open bodybuilding rotation, and then back on Tuesday, and then rest, and then you miss 1 day, everything gets fucking destroyed. I could find 3 days in the week for sure to get to the gym. I go more than that. But then I'll just, I'll take a rest day, do yoga, and then I'll restart the cycle. And maybe I'll get stuff in, you know, twice a week or once every 5 days. Maybe it'll be a 5-day cycle. And then every 5 days I'm repeating. So I'm on a 5-day cycle. So, oh, Dale, you sent me that? You sent me that, dude? Yeah, I knew it came from somewhere. Yeah. Something with a W, right, Dale? Like his last name. All right, you know what, Dale? Because I sometimes I'm like running around with in terms of content like a chicken with his head cut off. Can you send me that? Like if you know where it is or you know his name, can you send me that information again, Dale? Send it on Instagram if you can, or email me or something. I'd love to dig into that and just fucking plow. I'd love to go hard on one of those. I'd love to do like an episode on that and really like see what's going on there. So yeah, if you can send me that. Can you give advice on it? Good question. I know you can't see my form, but I'm wondering if it's normal or am I raising my arms up too high when I reach the flex point? Now, what do you mean by the flex point? This this is when you're going up like that, that's shoulder flexion. I'm assuming you mean the full traction point, which would be shoulder extension, scapular retraction, and external rotation of the shoulder joint. So I'm assuming you mean like the finishing point, which is actually extension. I just want to clarify that. It's very easy to use like common vernacular and then be completely wrong and the opposite when you talk about like actual kinesiology, the terminology. I like to be factually correct before I use like slang when I talk about the movements. Okay. If your shoulder does it hurt? I'm not a medical professional, clarification, obviously. But if it doesn't hurt, and this is what I would do, because my shoulder clicks and my shoulder kind of like it's hard for me to say like what you mean by a pop. I know what you mean, like kind of like a boom. But for me, if something doesn't hurt, if it feels uncomfortable, it depends on what the movement is. Like if I know what movement I'm doing, like my shoulder, if I move my arm around, boom, it's normal to have like some little clicks and bumps. Like a lot of people have that. So if it's not, it feels awkward. It could be something, could like if I had something like that and I felt it awkward or uncomfortable with no pain, I would probably either limit that range of motion and just keep on focusing on those movements because it could just be something that's loosening up and realigning. But if there's no pain for me, I usually go with no pain, no problem. And in most cases, I would have to say that's true or it served me well if there's no pain. However, if something feels weird and off, let's say I'm doing squats, right? Let's say I'm doing squats and my knee kind of feels weird. I don't fuck with that shit. So if my knee feels awkward or it feels tight or I don't really like the way I feel, I stop and I'll go and I'll just do glutes or I'll do like isolation or I'll do like some machines or I'll do like some lateral tube walking or I leave for the day. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. There's certain things I don't mess with. If I feel anything weird in my back if I feel anything weird, like, oh, I don't know if that was good or I feel a little bit like tight or, oh, it feels a little bit uncomfortable, I usually stop. And I'm just going to be honest. And that's why I've had so much success, knock on wood, had so much success without injury or minimizing my injury risk is because I've been so cognizant of any kind of discomfort or awkwardness in the gym. So if I feel like if I'm doing a squat and I feel like a little twinge, this happened to like a few weeks, like a month. I was doing squats. I felt like a little, ding, like a little pinch or a little tweak because I'm sitting down a lot or I'm moving around. I'm working out a lot, and it was like after I did a bunch of sets, and then someone came up to me, asked me a couple questions. So I had a little bit longer rest, probably got a little stiff. But then I went down for my next repetition or my next set, and I felt a little a little twinge, like little tiny. And I was like, oh shit. And I racked it and that was it. And it was sensitive for like a day or two, but I did yoga. I loosened it up. And who knows? I mean, I was doing a lot of editing up to that point, sitting down, here on the ball and everything. And I wasn't working out or as mobile and practicing yoga as consistently as I normally was at that point. So whenever I have any kind of discomfort, I just use that as a sign for my body saying, "Bro, you need more yoga. So stop fucking around with the weights and go do more yoga." So then I back off the weights and I do more yoga and I make sure I make that a priority. And then my body feels better and I go back to the weights more. And that's how I do it. That's how I do it. Anytime I have discomfort or inflammation or some kind of soreness, that's my body telling me, "Bro, you're lifting too much." And it doesn't mean that I'm lifting so much weight. I'm so strong. I'm lifting so heavy. I'm so huge. It just means that relative to what my body can handle, whether it's been more immobile or dehydrated, because what if I just didn't drink enough water and I was a little dehydrated? My muscles just didn't have the hydration it needed and something got caught and whatever. Okay, so live to see another day. You don't need to work through it. And oh, maybe if I do 10 more sets, you'll loosen up. Yeah. And you're going to be in a fucking wheelchair. Don't mess with that shit. If you're not sure, stop. If you are not sure, stop. And if you're having pain, go get it looked at by someone who cuts into these things for a fucking living. Go to an ortho, go to your, and look, I'm not going to sit here and denounce doctors and medical professionals across the board. I mean, if you have pain, a lot of times it's going to be like a couple $100. You go to the doctor and they're going to be like, "Oh, just take some ibuprofen and, come back. We'll see how it goes." Or they'll give you a painkiller and you're like, "Well, that didn't fucking work." But it depends on what it is. Sometimes I mean, you could have maybe, there could be a situation where you tear something or you have like some injury or issue or a labrum. You don't know. Just err on the side of caution. And when it comes to pain, I can't say anything when it comes to pain. If you have pain, go to someone who is a professional in pain. But discomfort and awkward feeling, a lot of the stuff that you'll do in the gym, especially with like a floor cobra, because it's so unique in the sense that you've never done anything like that up to this point in your life, chances are you're activating a lot of underactive and sleeping muscles. You're moving the body and integrating and coordinating movement in ways that you perhaps never have before. It's normal for shit to feel a little bit weird. Kind of like you're opening Pandora's box, right? You're opening up the Tupperware for like all the Christmas tree lights or the holiday lights, and you just get a fucking ball. You're like, oh God. So like you're opening the box and now you're going through all the shit that got stuck in there over the years and everything. What is your thought about behind the back pull downs and presses? Avoid them. Just don't even bother. I'm not going to get into the nuances of who could do it or who should do it or when you should do it. Just don't do it. It's just so much easier to say don't do it. Most people shouldn't. Most people shouldn't. I mean, that's really the answer. Most people shouldn't because of that rounded internal rotator, you're just creating a lot of friction and you're not going to have no one, I shouldn't say no one, very few people have the open shoulder socket with proper upper thoracic and cervical posture and muscle bound to even attempt that, let alone need to. It's not worth it. The risk is not worth it. If you're doing anything like that, your form has to be perfect. You need to be going light. You'll see a lot of old guys in the gym like, "Oh, I've been doing this way for 70 years." It's like, yeah, because you've been doing it for 70 years since you were a kid and you were active when you were a kid. You weren't sitting at a fucking computer in the 1940s. You have more open shoulder socket, but because we all grew up playing video games and with computers, we're all internally rotated and our fucking, what is it? Geez. It's not that, is it the acromion? The acromion process can sometimes hang down a little bit more. Everyone has a different bone structure, right? So in the shoulder socket, and apologies if I said the wrong anatomy term, but you have like different bone structures and different shapes of that shoulder joint. And some people have like a very protruded, hanging out part of the scapula, and some people have it more open. So sometimes, like for me, for example, I played baseball my whole life. So, and I'm a righty. So, and I used to pitch too and throw. So I have a more open joint. I have more external rotation on my right side than I do my left side. Not to mention, you're driving, you have stick shifts and everything like that, and you're internally rotated and driving like this. And so, I have less external rotation on my left side than I do my right side. And that's from the activities and stuff that I've been doing my whole life. form is everything. Decided to go to the gym, too much coffee. Yoga wasn't working for me today. Well, I'm going to go do my meditation and bang out some yoga and stretching and foam rolling. So before I leave you all, some big stuff, some big stuff coming in terms of programming for those of you that are in Swolenormous X. Huge things on the rise, some big moves and some big stuff coming, awesome stuff coming. And those of you that are not members of Swolenormous X, you'll be hearing, a lot more about these things as I make the announcements in the next week or two, probably the next week. And today and tonight I should say, new driving while gaining is going to go live on YouTube, and I'll also post that on Facebook. It's funny. You guys are going to get a kick out of that shit. So if you're a driving while gaining fan, you're going to have some laffy taffy to go along with your Wednesday evening. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for episode 761 Quadcast live on Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at Swolenormous. And you can catch the podcast on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. So I'll see you tomorrow, everyone, Thursday for 762. Peace, McGee's. Deuce, Magoose. Papa Swolio. Out. Later, fam. Thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. Thanks for the love. I thank you for the love. Michael, you love driving while gaining. Well, bro, you're going to have a juicy one dropping on your chin tonight. So I'm going to go get on that in a little bit. So probably around, in the next couple hours, you'll get that alert on YouTube. So even if you see it on Facebook, make sure you go over to YouTube and hit the like button and just throw some support, throw a couple views over there on YouTube as well. All right, guys. Love you. Peace. Bye.